Okay, hello and welcome to a live stream on the Accurate Beats YouTube channel. Damn, it's 8:15 right now. We were supposed to start 15 minutes ago. It is what it is. Technique and fucking accounts and two-step authentication kind of stuff. Should be awesome, should be great and secure and everything. Also is kind of a headache. Hello guys and welcome to the stream. Glad to have a few names showing up in the chat. I am having a little bit of an issue with the chat room too. Everything in the chat room in my window on my computer screen, everything translates to Swedish. That's never happened before. So strange. So right now Hannibal Lecter said, Vi alla känner till kampen, which is, we all know the struggle. James Jackson just said, what's good nogrann? Because nogrann is what accurate kind of means. Yeah, everything is translated into Swedish and I have to hold the mouse cursor on it to see the actual, what you actually wrote in English. That's so strange. Had never happened before. So can I monitor the chat room through the live stream instead? Maybe that could work. My browser is set to English. Everything here is set to English. I don't understand what's going on. Let me just see if this makes sense. Live stream, let's start it out. So can I monitor the chat room through and that audio comes through? Okay, cool. No, the same thing there. It translates to Swedish. What? Look, Ma, I'm speaking Swedish. Yeah, that makes sense. This is such a headache. How can I set this up? I was planning to do kind of a Q&A thing tonight. You know, getting questions from people in the chat room, trying to answer them and whatever. But if everything translates to Swedish, it's gonna be super crazy. In the browser, in that window right there, why does it translate? Is it a setting in YouTube? Maybe it's a setting in YouTube. Let me try to figure that out. But also, hi and thanks for being here. Just want to acknowledge the fact that this is not one of those weeks when we do a beat review stream. This is one of the other off weeks of that. So today, we're not doing a beat review. I'm just hanging out, chit-chatting, answering questions, a little bit of a Q&A kind of scenario going on. And if I'm not getting any questions because you guys, I don't know, maybe you just suck. I have a turntable, I have a few records, I have an MPC, I've got stuff. So if you're not entertaining me enough and I'm not entertaining you enough, we could always make music. Or something like that. Kan du läsa detta också? Okay, so you wrote in German. Kannst du das auch lesen? And that also translates into Swedish. Kan du läsa detta också? It doesn't say can you read this too. It just says in German. Okay, this is messing me up. Has anyone heard of this before? Or is this just one thing that's happening to one guy at one time? In that case, I don't know what to do. Send feedback, new chat window, time stamps, settings in YouTube overall. I don't even know where to find that. Your channel, history, watch later. Yeah, the entire interface on YouTube is also in Swedish. So instead of saying news, it says nyheter. Jeez, this is no good. Or is it like in Safari overall? Maybe it is. Let's go to accuratebeats.com. If that's translated to... Yeah, it's not. That's in English. Cool. So, let me try to figure this out. So, the YouTube interface itself doesn't have settings where there they are. Notifications. Advanced settings. Yeah, remove channel. That's got to be it. Remove channel. No. And it doesn't say remove. It says ta bort kanal. How? I hate this. Visningsspråk. Okay, cool. English, US. And that's more like it. That's what I'm used to seeing. Then let's go back to my channel. I know this is high quality content right here. Professional YouTuber, streamer, whatever you want to call me. Okay. So the window on there is actually in English and in here is on Swedish. So can I change that by just adding another chat doc? Nope. It's still in Swedish. Fuck. Yeah, the stream starts out strong. I know. We are doing some good stuff here. Of course not. I'm realizing that we're not. YouTube live control panel? Fuck this. At least everything is in English in my actual browser. So maybe I need to detach the chat room from that to monitor the chat like that instead of actually following it in OBS the way I want. Okay, so we're going to arrange the windows a little bit and that's it. So, I'm thinking of... I've thought about this for a while, actually, to make a proper video on the channel, or a video series, so to speak, like a Q&A kind of a situation, allowing you guys to ask some questions, and then I could just answer the questions, just talk about my perspective on things, because sometimes that could be interesting, just a little bit, you know? So now I have all my windows aligned and everything, and it kind of works. Somebody got a new gear, and I know this is just a ploy to flex the evolution of the couch chat. Yeah, whatever. I know this is just a ploy to flex the evolution of the couch hat. Are you guys teasing me for putting my hat underneath the couch cushion? I had to. Stiff as a rock, just standing straight up. No shape whatsoever. So I needed to shape it, make it fit a little bit better. This is actually merchandise from the tattoo convention I did a thing for, and also attended to, and also got a tattoo from the same guy who runs the tattoo studio that I'm going to tomorrow to get a new tattoo. Yeah, time for that tattoo itch to be itched again or something. Okay, we have all the camera angles. That's the one, that's another one, and that's a third one. Not that I'm going to use this today because that monitor is actually not connected. Whatever. It's an age-old technique. Yeah, maybe it is. I'm not one of those guys who wears like, brand new baseball hats, like flat, new era type of. Yeah, that's not what it is. So yeah, I don't want to play that. That's a secret. I don't want to play that. No. That's for an upcoming video. Let's browse for something else. So I'm noticing that we don't have a lot of people watching. Of course we don't. We started out the stream of me just fiddling about with the chat room for, I don't know, 10 minutes. Now we're here. So please, if we're getting more people in here, feel free to ask me some questions. Partly because I want topics just to talk about and maybe cut into some sort of video, or maybe just to hang out and chit chat and whatever. Everything doesn't have to be me making music or me listening to your guys' music. We could also just hang out, answering questions and all that kind of stuff. Checking the t-shirt. Coming back when the rumored Akai 37 MK2 get a review. Well, I wouldn't know anything about that. I don't know what you're talking about. I never know anything about anything from Akai. I don't. We have an NPC over here, though, from Akai, which makes sense. My thoughts on the look of the new Live 3 Retro. That's actually something. Yeah, you know what? Akai dropped the new retro version of the MPC Live 3. I can't say anything else than I just freaking love that design. That colorway and the look of it is awesome. So cool, so good. I never had the retro version of an MPC Live Mark II, and I don't have the retro version of the MPC Live 3 either. I don't. But honestly, in my book, that's the way an MPC is supposed to look. That gray color scheme with some red accents and stuff. I love it. I love it. I think it's great. I don't even know where my MPC 3 is right now. I don't even know where it is. Yes, I do. It's over there. It's, for a specific reason. But yeah, the gray colorway, awesome. I do love the look of that Korg synth. This one, the Micro Korg Mark II, it's not bad. It's not great. Gotta be honest, the interface of this one and how you kind of control it, it's not awesome. There's a lot of buttons that needs to be pressed and you need to follow along in the menu to understand where you are. If you learn every single one of them, it makes total sense. But for someone like me who just uses it a little bit on and off, it's a little bit confusing to just have to hit that button 3 times to get to control the third oscillator, or that one twice to control the arpeggio. It's not the best user interface ever. It's a good synth. It sounds cool. Many of the presets are actually somewhat usable. But if you want to tweak them, which you do, you gotta go into the buttons and stuff and jump over pages to have the knobs being assigned to kind of the right thing. It's not a nightmare. It's not that much of a hassle, but it's a little bit less fun than I think it should be. But for that price and for what it is, it's really cool. It is. There was a rumor today from a product in shop that was about the next generation MPC key. Oh, okay. So some kind of leak from some kind of store? Yeah, that always kind of happens. I haven't seen that. I came from work, got home, fixed a bike, made food, and got down here. So, I haven't followed along. I don't know what's happening. Do you think they'll make a Live XL retro? the MPC XL in a retro style. This one. I actually don't think so. I think this is the form factor and the color scheme we're getting with the MPC XL. And I'm totally fine with that. This looks good to me. This is nice. Having it all grayed out like an old school MPC would make a lot of sense. That would be cool. But I doubt that's going to happen. I think this is what it is. And honestly, I'm totally fine with that. This is good to me. This is good. I wouldn't mind a gray one. I wouldn't. But to me, the contrast between this color and that color really works. Makes it look a little bit smaller than it is. Makes it more manageable. But yeah, maybe I should just draw one up in Photoshop, just replacing the colors and making everything gray and see what I think about it. Could be really cool. Could be really cool. Where is the Korg multi-poly? It's right over there. That's the multi-poly. Probably my favorite synth out of Korg's, like, you know, the newer line of the digital Korg synths. It's really cool. It sounds really good, and it's somewhat easy to control. I like it a lot. I think it's a stronger contender than something like the King Korg Neo. It's not bad either, but this one is more fun to use to me. So if I gotta rate the like more recent digital versions of the Korg synths, that's on the top of the list for me, for sure. The form factor of it, the size and everything, makes it doesn't really work here in this spot over here on the desk. I used to have it over here somewhere, and it kind of worked, but it's a little bit too big and bulky. Over there makes perfect sense. Have you updated the machine to 3.5? No, I haven't. I don't think I have. I'm pretty sure I haven't. It might be set up over here later on. I'm rethinking stuff. So this computer set up over here with the complete control keyboard might actually get a machine controller or the Machine Plus in controller mode connected to the same computer. But I'm running out of USB connections. I need to get more hubs and stuff. So that's coming. And then, of course, I'm going to do my absolute best to keep machine updated. But I'm thinking about not using the machine as a standalone device at all. Just using it in controller mode over there. Because of what I said in my video about the future of Machine Plus, I don't think it's going to be supported for long. I don't have a high level of faith, so to speak, in that it's going to stay relevant and keep being updated and stuff. So I think transforming, like changing everything in the machine to just use it as a controller for the software, I think that's I think that's the use case that makes the more sense for me over here in the studio. But you never know. You never know. You never know. Don't do it. My studio refresh is taking a month. A can of worms I opened. Yeah, I know. James Rockwell, I know. Once you start redoing stuff for real, it takes a while to get everything all set up. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not going to reroute everything and like redo everything. I'm really happy with everything that I've got going on this side of me, and mostly on this side of me as well. This side of me needs a little bit of work. Just got this new thing as well that I'm going to make a complete video about that helps this setup over here to be way more capable and way more competent and a way better kind of audio generating source machine as what it's supposed to be. That's going to be an entire video in itself, but that's coming up, which means I'm gonna have to figure some stuff out. And machine might go over there too. Might make sense. But a complete studio overhaul is, according to me, one of the more fun things you can do with a home studio setup. Sure, using it to make beats is the most fun thing you can do with a home studio setup. But also like reorganizing stuff, taking out all the patch cables, rerouting stuff, and figure out, that's one of my hobbies, I guess. That's one of the things I do in the studio that I like doing the most. Just rerouting stuff and figure out how to do things. Right now with my patch bay, I have a workflow that works really well if I could only remember what all the jacks do. But right now, I can send stuff wherever I want, reroute things, and just resample stuff easily, which is cool. Come to Cleveland and do mine. Actually, I would love to. As long as you don't have any spiders, in the whole bird's nest of cables, I'm fine. Sorting out cables, finding patch points, and like designing, I guess, a studio setup. I love it. You've seen me do that multiple times on the channel in videos and whatever. And I find that to be really satisfying. I really do. Okay, that audio is coming through. Good to know. Yeah. Okay, James Rockwell, stop it. Don't talk to me about spiders when I'm actually in the home studio. That doesn't work. My chair was messing with me. Well, maybe we should find a few records to see if we can sample anything and just make something real quick. Not for the content or for like a tutorial, nothing like that. Just I want to improve my beat making skills in terms of time and how dedicated and how detailed I am. So just grabbing a sample, making something quick without spending like 3 hours on a single beat. Or I love spending 3 hours for a single beat. That's not what I'm saying, but getting a rough idea out there, maybe. Will there be a studio review? Like another studio review talking about your studios? Yeah, we did that months ago. I got a lot of photos from you guys with your setups, and I got to sit here and just watch a lot of pictures and stuff and talk about the studios. Could that be a thing to do again? I know we had a lot of submissions last time. A lot of people were featured, but if you want to share your home studio, yeah, that could be a live stream. That could definitely be a live stream. Or do you want to do that today? Do we want to do that today? I don't have anything planned. I'm just thinking about maybe throwing something together, maybe not throwing something together. I don't know. Yeah, Puerto Ricanism with an actual good question. We've had a lot of good questions so far. I'm not saying anything else. What are you using the reel-to-reel for? What's the best use case for it to you? It's kind of a rabbit hole with these old reel-to-reel tape recorders. A part of me kind of loves everything about them. The aesthetics, how they sound mechanically, and of course how they sound sonically as well with the actual audio. So I have a few that I've collected over the years, just finding randomly on flea markets and stuff. This is the best one I've got, in that it works well. I can depend on it. It just records audio and it plays back audio just fine. My use case for it, I don't use it a lot. That would be kind of a lie. I don't use it a lot, but the way I use it is simple. Whatever I want to route into it and record on tape, I do it. Sometimes it's a drum loop, sometimes it's one-shot samples, sometimes it's an entire instrumental, just recording it onto tape, rewinding it back to just play it again and resample audio from the tape recorder. It's like one of those, I'm using it as like an effect pedal, or as an effect basically, just to capture some of the grittiness and some of the saturation and stuff off of it. Because depending on the signal you put into it, both in terms of the level and the compression of the signal, it sounds different. Sometimes getting it to distort just a little bit is really, really nice. Also recording really quiet stuff on it to then boost it up to get even more of the humming and the noise and stuff is also kind of a cool thing. It's not the easiest thing to work with. It's just not, because one of the VO meters is broken, so I can't really see the incoming signal the way I want. But, recording anything into it, recording it on tape, rewinding, play it back, and capture that audio is really cool. It feels good. It's really cool. But it's old. This is like from the 60s, sometime in the 60s, 68, I think. Which, it works flawlessly, but it's not always connected to power. Right now, it's not. It shouldn't be connected. Who knows? No, it's not. So it's not hooked up in any way, except from the incoming. No, the outgoing audio is actually connected, but nothing else. So I need to plug in the power to make sure that it works. No, I need to plug in the power whenever I want to work with it, and then it just spins up. Then I'm running a patch cable into the patch bay, and it's all good. That's my only use case for it, just to affect audio, basically. It's not that it holds up for an entire mastering session. It doesn't sound that good, and it cuts some low frequencies in a way that doesn't always work. You can boost them too, but it's kind of a thing. I mean, it's just a coloration kind of tool for coloring stuff. Whenever I have any type of audio signal that I want a specific kind of grit to be applied to, the reel-to-reel tape recorder works really well for that. That's my use case of that one. I have other ones too that sounds even worse, and then I'm using those as kind of a distortion effect, or if I want some really obvious tape wobble stuff. This one is super stable. So if I record a single A note, for instance, I'm getting the same A note out. It's super consistent like that. One of the small ones I've got, like a really small, crappy, kind of childish version of it, sounds cool and vibey, but it's not even. So whenever I record a note, I'm getting something else back, and it kind of warps in time like that, which is also cool. But this is just another, it's just a better reel-to-reel tape machine, and it works well for that kind of use case, for real. I like how John Makes Beats uses his. Yeah, but he also uses it to speed up or slow down something a little bit, which is cool. That's not what I do. I'm keeping the speed consistent. And depending on the speed of the tape, you're getting different audio qualities and different pluses, different minuses, different kind of perspectives and sonics of it. It's not bad. Kind of cool. Can you drive the signal to distort it? Yeah, I can drive the signal into the tape, or I can drive it out from the tape. Both versions sounds a bit different, and it's always a little bit finicky to find the balance between the in and out audio and whatever. So it takes a little bit of time, which doesn't make it really effective at all, but it's cool enough and fun enough to still do it every now and then. I might have to show that off in a video sometime, but yeah, that's for a different thing. I thought it would be cool to use after exporting a beat and retroactively being able to slow it down to see how it sounds transposed. For sure. And it adds even more character whenever you do something like that. I don't have that kind of pitch functionality on this one, so I can speed it down like effortlessly, limitless, without... No, there's not a single way to do that if I'm just not playing the tape way slower. And then it becomes too much. Whatever. You mean the in signal? Yes, I can. But it's really, really sensitive. That's what I'm trying to say. If I'm cranking the signal up if I'm right... How am I supposed to say this? If I'm driving the signal too hard onto the tape, it's just destroyed in a way that's not even beautiful. If I do it just a little bit, it could be really cool, but it's a fine balance between too much and just the right amount. So I can drive the signal into the tape 100%, but it's hard to nail the setting. Really hard. Because, the VU meters doesn't really work the way I want them to. Have you ever thought about a MIDI interface so you can play all your synths from your NI controller? I've thought about it, and I've decided against it. One thing about my entire studio is that I just gotta make sure that I'm not lying. Nope. I think that's right. I'm not using one single MIDI cable anywhere. Nothing is routed in terms of MIDI. Because if you only saw my perspective from here, there's cables everywhere. And I'm not kidding. Cables everywhere. So setting up even more cables to get MIDI routing, I'm just not interested. If I wanted to get MIDI functionality or a MIDI keyboard into my MPC XL, for instance, then I would just use a USB cable from this one, for instance, from the microcord straight into the MPC and use MIDI like that over USB. One single cable in and out, that's it. Routing MIDI from the complete control keyboard into the different synths and stuff would probably make sense, but also kind of not, because if I want to use my multi-poly, for instance, I want to access the stuff on the multi-poly itself, not just the sound. I want to be able to control the filter, the different stuff for the oscillators and whatever. That one also has built-in effects on it, so why not? Routing the MIDI to something else would, even if I could route a few of the buttons or knobs on this one to that one, I'm not getting the full experience of using it. So then I could just use anything else in Kontakt. The benefit of using a hardware synth like this, for me, is the actual form factor, the actual unit, the device itself. Being able to control all the knobs and do stuff live and direct. That's what I'm all about. That's what I like. So routing MIDI, introducing even more cables, no thanks. And losing some of the functionality on a hardware synth, no thanks. So even though it could be handy for some stuff, I'm just not interested. You know? Sure, if I want to, that's also one of the things about my entire workflow. Sure, if I wanted to sync this one up with the like the sequencer or the arpeggio from a hardware synth, I need to use MIDI somehow. So normally I just don't. I'm working in 86 BPM. Fine, I'm setting this one to 86 BPM and I'm just hitting it like that. Which is fine, because normally what I end up doing is recording that signal into the MPC, and then I have all the editing possibilities in the world, right? If I'm using a tremolo in a pedal, that could also be MIDI synced. I don't care about MIDI syncing a tremolo. I think it's vibey and cool to not have it MIDI tempo synced. If I wanted it to be, I could do it on the pedal to match up the BPM. But why should I? Maybe that's kind of a crazy take, I don't know. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of MIDI cables. And MIDI over USB is good, and whenever I need to use it, I can. But normally, no, just not a fan. And he continues, I don't know how well that controller does at adjusting those parameters. I'm sure I can set up but that's one of the big things here. I'm sure I could assign MIDI CC messages from the complete control keyboard into whatever and control a lot of parameters at once by using, different screens and different whatever. But it's not the same experience as using the actual hardware. It's just not going to be the same. If I wanted to use something in software together with something in hardware and getting layers of a sound like that, sure, something like that could make a lot of sense, but I'm just choosing not to do that. I don't need it. I don't need to. I can just record this one first and then that one, or I could just, play the same thing on two keyboards if I really wanted to. But I don't really want to, so whatever. Yeah, we are getting some questions. That's cool. Let's just chat for a bit. For delays, I like to do it too. Yeah, a beat matched delay makes sense. But in that case, if I want my delay to be beat matched, I can just use the internal delay on the MPC. Or if I'm working in a DAW, it's simple enough, If I'm using an external delay, I can live without having it tempo synced. For sure. Hannibal Actor says, all my synths I own are desktop synths, so I have to use MIDI. Or I can't even use them. Okay, that makes sense. I don't have a single desktop synth. All my synths are with keyboards, except from one from Arturia, but that has the pads for instead of a keyboard, basically. Carbon Vibes has a patch bay for that, and it's handy, but all the cables can be a headache. Yeah, so you have a patch bay for all the MIDI stuff. That's the only way I could imagine to do that. Instead of having cables and patching it like that, I need a patch bay for that too. But again, with the cables and to me it just feels like a nightmare. I've never been a fan of stuff like that, and I can't see myself going MIDI like that. Just can't. You guys remember he was literally wiring audio into the MPC. He wasn't writing the MIDI and sending the signal to an external device. Yeah, that's what I like doing. And if I wanted to sequence MIDI, I have an entire computer over here. It's running Logic with this. That right now is Logic sending audio into the patch bay, into the stream. Could be routed into the MPC for resampling purposes. 100%, that's what I do. If I wanted to do something kind of finicky and, maybe I wanted to do some sort of automation, or I wanted to do some really fine, detail controlled stuff on the MIDI, I could use that computer for that and just sequence whatever I want. Or the main computer if I'm making music, but if I'm making a sample, I could just record MIDI. Simple as that. And the display is not even working. So I still have the functionality if I wanted to. Normally I just don't. Tap tempo is very nice to have on a delay. Yeah, and you do. I mean, the light pedal can be used like that, and also the poly and miss. I could tap the tempo. I can set the tempo to match it up with this, like manually, like adjusting it, and then it plays the same tempo, even though it's not synced, because who cares, A question to the chat. Is there a specific effect you refuse to use in plugin mode? The same question for instruments or VST. That's a complicated question. Anything I refuse to use in plugin mode? For me, no. I could use anything as a plugin if it works well and sounds good, for sure. And what is even a plugin? The instruments and the effects in the MPCs are plugins. So that's what I do all the time. Even though I like my pedals using hardware effects like that, plugin effects shouldn't be slept on. Don't be an elitist about it. Because why should you? Why should you? Why should you? Why should you do anything? And even though as I get older, I'm turning more and more into hardware and I'm leaving software to a large extent. That's not me being elitist about hardware being better than software. Not at all. For me, hardware versus software, those two things are like complement. Those two things are opposite sides of the same kind of thing. I don't care if it's hardware or if it's software. I just tend to have a better time, having more fun using something with hardware, buttons and sliders and maybe a touchscreen. It's still kind of hardware over this. It's not that I hate computers or that I'm not using Logic. I do. But for my actual creativity, I just prefer being hands-on with stuff. And I know I also have the possibility because I have an MPC and I have a few synths and whatever. But there's nothing wrong with software at all. Software is more powerful and better in general. Can you spit 16 bars you've written? I know you have a verse somewhere around here. I do, of course. I have actually reworked I have this 16 bar verse that I use for like testing things out. If I have a beat running, I have a verse that I'm like saying out loudly or just imagining on top of the track. Those 16 bars has nowadays become 12 bars because I've kind of reorganized how things are connected in my mind. But yeah, I have a verse. You're never gonna hear it. I promise you. But I have it. It's in English and it doesn't sound bad. I mean, the rhyme schemes aren't that impressive for a native kind of English speaker, of course. But, you know, to me and the way I'm using it, it works. You're never going to hear it. This is also a question. Mac or PC? Again, there's nothing wrong with any of them. I do have my entire home studio. This is a MacBook and this is a Mac Mini, M1 processors. Apple Watch, iPhone, iPad. My work computer is also a MacBook Pro. I'm a Mac guy, 100%. But I do have a PC, my ROG Ally, one of those handheld gaming devices. So I use Windows and a PC for gaming. I do. Mostly me laying in bed playing Warzone with the controller, And to me, without being like an expert on anything, the problem with PCs is not the PC or the computer at all. It's kind of the same whatever. The problem to me with a PC is Windows. Windows suck. The Windows updates, the Windows compatibility with things, the Windows drivers, update those drivers to be able to work with whatever. 1 time out of 5, maybe that's a little bit much. Let's say something like every 7th time I turn on my Windows computer, it needs to do some sort of update and I need to wait around for, I don't even know how long, because the bars doesn't even work the way they're supposed to do. So if you're using a PC computer, a Windows computer in a home studio, I guess you know what you're doing and you don't have a lot of problems with that. But for someone like me who just uses it as a handheld kind of PC, I'm getting so many updates and so much issues. I can't rely on the fact that I'm always going to be able to pick it up and just start working, or in my case, gaming, because it's so much hassle. What people always say that about the Mac. It just works. I know it sounds bad and it sounds like what you're supposed to say, but according to me, that's actually what it is. A Mac just works. Apple computers are way too expensive for what they should be and for what they are, maybe except from the MacBook Neo. I know all that. They do this crazy premium for RAM, or at least they used to. It's not fair, it's super weird, it's not good at all, but the computers work well. This is an M1 MacBook with 32 gigs of RAM. M1 Max. It just chugs through everything I put on it. Just does. And yeah, we have a Nightbot in the chat to remind you to join the Discord. Yep. Oh, that means you have the verse really mastered. Let's hear it. No. I can use that verse for a really kind of low energy, 82 BPM kind of track. And I can also imagine or spit it to something in 94 BPM. And it works. It kind of flows naturally for the thing. I like the verse. I do. But I'm not a rapper and that verse doesn't deserve the time of day. Just doesn't. This is also interesting. Is there a particular reason why you lean towards using NPCs over machine? I mean, I could talk about this for hours, but when it all comes down to it, the the ease of use when it comes to editing MIDI notes and editing pretty much whatever on the timeline using a touchscreen is so much nicer, so much faster, so much easier than not having a touchscreen. And when I got my first MPC, I was super against the touchscreen functionality and the workflow of a touchscreen on a device like that. And a part of me still kind of don't love it because I prefer having dedicated buttons and learning where everything is. But whenever I need to adjust like a single snare hit, being able to do it on the actual touchscreen is so much nicer and so much easier than, setting the range of notes to find exactly the right one in a machine and then moving it. I'm not saying that it's impossible. I know how to do it. I can do it pretty quickly. But compared to the MPC, it's just, no, that's a big thing. And that's not something I do always, I know, but it's still, that was a huge thing when I started working on an MPC like this. I just loved being able to do that quickly and easily. So that's the first thing I really discovered on an MPC that made more sense to me than machine. Even though learning where everything is, not even having to read the display, just hitting the buttons, it's effective and cool. I love that workflow for machine. I do. But there's something about the flexibility that you're getting with an MPC with a touchscreen that's just better and stronger to me. And lately, the updated versions of the software, MPC, Akai just stays on top of that kind of stuff compared to Native Instruments with machine. Everything feels nice and fresh. You're getting new functionality every now and then, and new plugins, and things are just working. Everything's just compatible, and you're not getting a lot of issues. I'm getting more issues with my machine than I want, And those things are pretty much what first led me into using the MPCs. And then everything just grew on me, and I outgrew machine, I guess. Someone says, I have both. I build PCs so I can build a very top-end PC for a fraction of the cost. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great thing. That's awesome. I'm not going to say that I used to build PCs, but I used to be one of those guys, back in the day. I could replace a broken PSU. And I could swap out the graphics card, and I could reapply the thermal, whatever it's called, the thermal paste on a computer. And a part of me still thinks I kind of know how to do that stuff. But since when I went into the Apple kind of world of things, why should I even bother? I am okay with paying a premium for the computers, for the tools I use daily, and it just works, Assuming you do your own edits, what do you enjoy more, video editing or arranging the beat? Honestly, video editing is cool. I enjoy editing videos a lot. Really do. I've got everything set up in a way that really works well for me. So I'm just, I'm using my mouse and one hand on the keyboard, not having to I have shortcuts and stuff. Video editing is fun. Arranging beats, that's my least favorite thing about beat making. Arranging beats, I've never find it to be particularly fun. So arranging beats is not high on the list. Editing videos, it kind of is. Kind of. Haptics are the way you get feeling into this world. Yeah. That should be said. even if I switched to making beats on software, like 100%, just working inside of Logic, working in the box, I would still kind of use the, command key to be able to play the keys on this keyboard, if I couldn't use any sort of MIDI controller or USB controller at all. Because punching stuff into a timeline is just more fun. It feels better. You're getting more of a natural kind of swing and feeling of things compared to drawing stuff on the timeline. Things can be edited off the grid over there too, and it could be done, but you're getting something human by just inputting notes on the same timeline. There's just some magical thing about that. Hard to say exactly what, but to me, there's a difference. And the haptic feedback from actually using something is maybe the thing. Have you heard about morph flow architecture? I haven't. Dilly's Q. I like having a MacBook for the portability and a PC for a workstation. Fruity Loops is garbage on Mac. Yeah, I know. I tried using FL, like a really early beta version on the Mac. Didn't work. Just didn't. So I know what you're saying. Jacob says, hi, I just ordered an MPC sample and I'm excited to get it going. I have VSTs though, complete and absolute on my PCs. Is there a way to load full kits into it with the SD expansion? Well, there are workarounds and things you can do. I would say normally pick your favorite sounds out of whatever you have, render that as audio, import the audio files into the MPC and work with them manually like that. There's ways to convert like programs and groups and whatever from a lot of things into an MPC kind of form factor. But many of those things are made for an MPC like this, with multiple tracks and multiple tracks basically. The MPC sample kind of has a single track and different pad banks. So whenever you use one of those tools to convert something into an MPC group, that becomes the entire thing on the MPC. If you want to use two of them, you kind of can't. And you're doing a lot of, tech work for basically nothing. So I would say pick your best 60 WAV files and just import them and use them as files in the MPC sample. That's what I would have done. Transferring, plugin formats and stuff could be done. There's a lot of solutions out there. But in my book, you end up spending more time and more effort doing all the, fiddling about steps than creating, which is less fun. That's what I see. Sample hip hop EJ. Yeah, I thought about that. I found this listing on like the Swedish version of eBay basically for hip hop EJ2. And I thought, yeah, let's buy that. Could be fun to just check out hip hop EJ2 and see what it has to offer in terms of samples and whatever. And then I realized it comes on like a CD, DVD, whatever. And then it felt a little bit too complicated to be worth it. I'm sure I can find it online too, but maybe not. Conversation about Serato Slate. I don't even know what that is. I'm sure I do, but Serato Slate. Now that's my Safari. Gotta check that out. Serato Slate. And now I lost the chat. That's good. Ah, there we are. Jacob says that it's thankful, that is helpful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Serato Slate. What are you talking about? Doesn't exist. Hannibal Actor asks, what's your favorite pedal you own? And are you still happy with the Lossy? Does it even show? Kinda does. Kinda doesn't. Well, that's gonna have to do. The pedals. I mean, I'm a simple guy. I'm a simple man. I'm gonna have to say my Poly and Mess is my favorite pedal. Not just because it's a multi-pedal that does a lot, but it's also maybe my most creative pedal, since you can like do automation and program changes, like program parameter changes on the actual pedal itself is really cool. Takes a lot of time to get things right, but you're getting a lot of cool and happy accidents with that pedal. But it's more of an exploration kind of thing. So if I needed to pick one out of these ones to be my favorite pedal, I know it sounds strange coming from me, but the plasma pedal over here, that's just great. I mean, I think it's mostly made for like metal guitarists to get like crazy distortion and stuff. But if you tweak it just right, you can get so many like cool nuances of distortion and saturation depending on the source. So like just doing a little bit of low gaining and just a little bit of mixing in with the distortion on something like a kick drum, just takes it places. Without going like, super distorted and noisy and whatever, you can just get some cool, nice nuances out of it, for sure. I like that one a lot. The Lossy, I think it's fun. I think it's cool. It's not as useful as I initially thought. I have the Generation Loss Mark II, and something is wrong about it. It's like super noisy and doesn't work the way it should. So whenever I want some lo-fi stuff, I'm using the Lossy, and it's good. But it's also kind of strange the way it works with the filter. I'm not sure. Not excited about it, but I'm not hating it. I'm not. Slate dropped almost a year ago, and you don't know that. Tells me what I need to know. What are you saying? Serato Slate. Is that even a thing? Dropped a year ago. I should know it. Serato Slate. Gemini Slate. That's a cheap-ass DJ controller. Is that what you're talking about? Gemini Slate? Slab? Are you talking about Serato Slab? That's a whole different thing. Okay, you are talking about Serato Slab. Okay. Serato Slab. I know what that is. I was so close to actually buying one just to try it out and make a video on it. Ended up not, because I saw some videos and I felt less excited about it. Let's put it that way. Honestly, I think Serato Slab could have been a great product. Serato Studio, Serato Sample are great pieces of software. Hands down, they are fantastic. The stem separation is good. The BPM detection is good. The pitch detection is really good. And, they had all the possibilities in the world to make something really cool. I think they ended up something kind of meh. It works. It doesn't do everything you want. You still got to use the computer software, mouse and keyboard and whatever. If that's a workflow you're kind of looking for, I guess it makes sense. But compared to something like an MPC or machine, I think Serato Slab just doesn't cut it. Now, I haven't used one myself, so I'm just talking out of my ass, but that's my honest opinion. I think the Serato Slab I think the Serato Slab could have been kind of a success. Now, it really doesn't feel like that was any type of a success at all. I've seen some people using it on YouTube for like demo purposes or whatever, but I'm not sure how many people actually daily drive their Serato Slab as their like main beat making device kind of thing, controller for the software. I think they kind of dropped the ball on that one. I do. Hard to say exactly why, but it's just, I'm not interested at all in trying it today. Maybe I was a year ago. Today, no. I can't see a reason why. I can't see one single reason for anyone to go that route. You have the MPC Studio controller. You have Machine Mark III as a controller for that software. Years old by now, a lot of years, but it's still way better and more like elaborate and well working than Serato Slab, than what Serato Slab ever was. That's my 2 cents on that. I'm dropping the ball on the chat room. I'm not following along. Search for morph flow architecture for Akai MPC. It may be interesting for an Akai MPC perspective. Okay. Sounds like that's something I need to like research and read up on. Morph flow architecture for continuous music creation. What? No, that's something else. Morph flow architecture MPC. I'm not going to learn what this is right now, so I'm going to put that in a document and remember that. Thanks for pointing me towards it, though. Could be cool. Let's make a quick note. No. Organization is also something we need to talk about someday because this is getting crazy. But yeah, there we are. Is there a local folk music in your town and can you refer a song? No. No. Sweden is cool and Swedish music is kind of cool. Swedish folk music is not so cool. And locally where I live, we don't have any of that. It's all about rock and metal over here. I'm not a big fan of the local music scene at all. James, are most folks finishing beats on or in their sampler, MPCs mostly, or are they mostly finishing stuff in a DAW? I make beats on the SP404 Mark II, but am wondering if an MPC would be better for finishing without a PC. I would say that depends on what MPC we're talking about. The MPC sample is not for that, I think. You can finish stuff on that, but you can on the SP404 too. But for the actual question here, I would say more times than not, I'm actually finishing most of my tracks in the DAW as well. Nowadays, I kind of don't have to because of the functionality of the XL is so crazy with the arrangement view and the clip launching view and everything. You could go crazy like that. If you want an MPC to actually be able to finish your songs and like arranging full tracks and whatever, don't get an MPC sample. Get any of the other MPCs with more RAM and whatever, and the full-fledged system, because it's a big difference. But if you are willing to kind of dedicate the time to learn how to do it, it's 100% capable of that. 100%. I'm working on a beat in here right now that's about 2 minutes long. It has been a little bit finicky with the timeline, but also kind of straightforward, which is contradicting myself. But yeah, compared to what you're able to do on the SP404, yeah, you're getting a lot of those kind of values in a full-size MPC. Finishing tracks on the MPC is definitely possible, 100%. Also, like the routing of the internal effects and stuff works way easier. It makes more sense. You're able to do way more stuff on an MPC than on the SP. It does feel different. It's not the same vibe, but it's, to me, better and cooler. Any upcoming pedals on your radar? No, actually not. Not right now. I still like my Lossy, but it's very situational. Yeah, I know. How far behind am I? Not that far. Okay, not that far. In a document where things go to get lost. Actually not true. I'm reorganizing all my documents and stuff right now. I was dedicated to using Notion for a while, and now I've decided to let go of Notion again and just go 100% in on organizing everything in my Apple Notes, which has become better over the years with, different headlines and you're able to fold stuff in and whatever. It makes more sense. Apple Notes is not where things go to die with my situation and my setup right now. It's super specific. It's so, I'm keeping it in check. I'm actually kind of proud of this. But yeah. James Rockwell, I don't know. Someone seemed to be... Was someone rude in the chat? Huh. That could happen. The way something was worded. Oh, yeah, you don't know about this and that. Tells me all I need to know. No, he didn't mean it like that. And I came off as an idiot, not knowing what Serato Slab was, because he called it something else, Serato Slate, which is not the same thing. Serato Slab, I know what that is, and I said my thoughts about it. Did you watch Midsommar, and how did you like it? No, I haven't. I'm a big fan of horror movies, actually. I like horror flicks. I do. Midsommar, haven't seen it. Swedish movies are, as a Swedish person, a lot of Swedish films are not that good. Midsommar is supposed to be good, though. So, Puerto Ricanism. Are you tracking everything out in mono when exporting to a DAW, or are there exceptions for stereo audio? Nope. Stereo audio doesn't exist in my world. Stereo isn't a thing. Everything is in mono. Always. To me, it just makes more sense to work like that, using everything in mono, because who am I to make any kind of mixing decisions or anything for a stereo track? I can't see myself going stereo for anything ever. You know, if I can't make any decisions about how things should be, I'm out of control, and I want to be in control. Believe me, I could let anything slip away on the right side of a stereo track. And there could be an entire person speaking in the right speaker, and I'm not gonna be able to pick it up. So why should I allow anything to be in stereo? No. Everything is always in mono. That's just what it is. My DAW is set up to work in mono or dual mono, like multiple. It's all mono. That's just what it is. Did you ever try sync licensing? No, never. I'm not interested. I don't want to be in that world of stuff. Especially not these days with AI being a thing. No. I'm never going to walk that route. Was let the right one in Swedish? Låt den rätte komma in. Yeah, that's in Swedish. That's a great movie. Were you always hip-hop or... Okay. This is a question. Were you always hip-hop or were you ever metal or goth? As a white person in Sweden... you might have... Okay, let me rephrase that. The question is this. Were you always hip-hop or were you ever metal or goth? Yeah, as a Swedish person living around where I live, you would assume that I was into metal, hard rock, goth, or whatever like that. I never was. Not even a little bit. I can appreciate like Rage Against the Machine to a certain extent and like softer kind of rock to a certain extent, but not much at all. It's actually kind of funny because when I started understanding that I was passionate about music at all, I listened to everything. Rock and metal less than anything else, but I used to be a big Björk fan. For instance, I used to listen to Blur. I had this phase where I kind of liked the Smashing Pumpkins a little bit. But then I discovered hip-hop. I discovered reggae. I discovered jazz. I discovered blues. And it just went full hip-hop from there. One of the things about living in kind of a small town in Sweden, in this kind of bubble of culture being like one single, like monoculture, and you're someone like me, punk is also a big thing in Sweden, especially when I were younger and whatever. Like politics and stuff, people were getting into whatever left and right, and punk was one of those things. The Swedish hip-hop scene back then was kind of closely related to punk when it came to like the mindset and the politics and the lifestyle and everything. But I never enjoyed like distorted guitars. That's one of my things. And what I'm trying to say here is that in this kind of monocultural bubble of my hometown in Sweden, it's really easy to get stuck in metal, hard rock, like progressive rock and roll, that kind of stuff. And I just chose to go the other direction. Taking a hard left, basically. So I went full in on like black music. Jazz, soul, funk, a little bit of disco, hip-hop, rap, that kind of thing. That entire spectrum. Which made me believe that anyone who kind of made rock music was a bad person. You know, back in the days, you used to connect the dots in all sorts of crazy ways. And I'm not a nice person, always. So sometimes whenever I choose to do a hard left and everyone else does a hard right, I think everyone's stupid. I kind of hate everyone. And I am me and myself, and I'm proud to be interested in what I'm interested in. And, putting all these like defense mechanisms all over the place. So to me, that was kind of a thing I did with my personality. And I started to idolize like rappers and producers and DJs and whatever like that, which led me to kind of despise anything else because it wasn't the same. And around here, back then, still to this day, to a less extent, but still, I'm not making real music because I'm not playing instruments. I'm not playing the drums or a heavily distorted guitar. It's not real music. I'm working with computers and technology. Yeah, you're a computer geek. You're not a musician. It's still a little bit of that going around here. Not as much as before, but I kind of grew into this mindset of being proud of who I am and what I do, and everyone else is the enemy. Defense mechanisms, as we do in our teens and whatever. So, no, I never went rock, metal, goth. No, I found hip-hop, and then I just never went back. That's the end of the story. That's why I still make hip-hop beats to this day, I guess. That's kind of a rant about me not understanding rock music and feeling alienated. And that's what it is. And I'm stuck in that kind of mindset. For better or worse. When in a group, do you always stand so that everyone was in your good side here? Yeah, that's what I do. And I'm explaining that to people whenever I meet a new person, on my work or whatever, that, I'm deaf on the right ear. I can't hear anything in the right ear. And that's good for you to know, but it's my responsibility to make things work. So if you're speaking to me and I can't hear you and I'm moving around, it's not because of you, it's because of me, So in meeting rooms and whatever, I'm always placing myself in a way that I have people on the left-hand side of me. Which is, it's not great. It's kind of a handicap. It's not great. It's just not. But I'm finding my own ways to deal with that. And repositioning in the room is not the end of the world. It's just not. But yeah, I always move around, so I have people on the left-hand side of me. Partly for me, but also for everyone else. You want me to hear what you're communicating, so that I need to adjust. That's what I do. I don't have the app, but the word on the street is that TikTok is banning all AI audio. That sounds good to me. That sounds great. If they could also ban all AI-generated videos and all AI-generated photos, that would be awesome. Never going to happen, though. That's never going to be the future. It's not actually going to work. But I would love that to happen. Favorite female vocalist and male vocalist separately. Top 5 MCs. Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot. As an MC, I appreciate Rhapsody. I do appreciate Rhapsody. Not everything she's always done. Every single track can't be awesome, but, Ninth Wonder together with Rhapsody. Yeah, they made a lot of good stuff. Rhapsody she's nice on the mic, for sure. But also, female vocalists in general, I'm old school. I'm gonna have to mention Lauryn Hill. Even though I know what it is. But Lauryn Hill, back in the days, like the miseducation of Miss Lauryn Hill, that's nice. It's nice for sure. And I had this big argument with my daughter the other day. She wanted me to list stuff. This is not my top 5. I'm not even touching that subject. But we were talking about Doja Cat. Who were we talking about? Doja Cat, Megan Thee Stallion, Nicki Minaj, and one more. We had 4. Nicki Minaj, Megan Thee Stallion, Doja Cat, and one more. And I rated Doja Cat to be my least favorite out of those 4, and she went crazy on me. That wasn't a very popular take. But as a rapper, I have a hard time. Doja Cat is not my favorite out of those 4s, whatever the last one was. I know it's problematic. Again, I know. But the rap style of Nicki Minaj, I don't hate it. I just don't. And, when it comes to male rappers or male vocalists, I'm a big fan of voices. Voices all the way. Voices and I think you would say cadence, the confidence, the attitude, whatever. Evidence is, I know, he's not the favorite rapper of a lot of people, but Evidence is one of my favorite rappers. Just because of his delivery, the way he makes things sound effortless. He has a little bit of attitude, but not anything too crazy. He feels like a grown-up person. He's been through a lot. I respect him and everything he does. Evidence is high on my list. And of course, people like Mos Def, up there. In terms of the voice, Ghostface Killah, he's also one of those. Method Man, also one of those. Not to, Redman is also one of those. 100%. Guru, yep, Guru. Mostly because of, Gangstar. The songs, the tracks, the beats and everything. Guru, in a vacuum, I don't know. May he rest in peace, though, of course. But there's a lot of rappers. A big fan of Murs, too. For sure. Murs. And, the whole kind of the Rhyme Sayers collective had a big period in Europe. Atmosphere, Brother Ali, all that stuff. I still have a soft spot for Brother Ali. And I know you can have opinions about that too, but when it comes to the musicality, again, the cadence and his persona and the way he brings things, yeah, I'm a fan. Tyler, the Creator, has to be mentioned when it comes to the voice and the expression, for sure. We've said a few names at this point. I think we have. We've said a few names. But Evidence is huge to me. For some reason. I don't exactly know what it is. It's just one of those things. I've had this thing for Evidence for a few years, and yeah. Partly the Dilated People kind of stuff. It's good stuff. Brings back memories and whatever. But Unlearning and Unlearning Volume 2, good stuff. Across the board. And, Alchemist is also on there sometimes. Yeah. Woo, we can talk about those forever. What do you think of Promo? The Swedish rapper Promo? Yeah, he's not bad. By vocalist, I mean singer. Okay, we want to talk about singers. You know what? I'm a big Amy Winehouse fan. Big fan of Amy Winehouse, for sure. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say something that's a little bit out there. You know what I think? Billie Eilish, underrated. One of the biggest stars ever. But as a vocalist, as like just flat out, just as a singer, yeah, I think she's cool. Nina Simone, one of those, of course. Female vocalists. I'm huge on Monica Zetterlund. We gotta type that in the chat. If you don't know, you need to know. Monica Zetterlund in the chat. A female jazz singer. Don't sample her stuff. It's been done. Monica Zetterlund. The recordings from like the 60s, 70s. Små gröna äpplen. That's some nice music right there. Monica Zetterlund, Gröna små äpplen. That's the name of the track. Check it out. We need to move on. People are talking about Foxy Brown. Okay. Atmosphere. Tyler Flex freestyle. Yeah. I mean, a part of being an artist, I'm also like this. If we want to talk about rappers and artists like that, I like serious music these days. Everything doesn't need to be super hard, dark and like whatever, but I like things to be, mature. I want grown-up music. I want things to be serious. For better or worse. Sometimes you can take it too far and be whatever, but I like serious stuff. I'm not much of a fan of like party rap or whatever. But what someone like Tyler, the Creator, brings to the table when it comes to like raw comedy, I do appreciate that too. The Funk Flex freestyle, for instance. That's awesome stuff. So fun. But it's fun as something you scroll through on Instagram Reels more than something that you listen to, So I'm getting all like stiffed up the older I'm getting. But serious music that has kind of a value to it, I appreciate it. That's why someone like Evidence really resonates with me. He says something in his tracks. Even though some of the songs are just, brag rap, proving a point, whatever. He does it in a way that makes sense for his age group, for my age group. And you can kind of take it seriously. It's not brag rap for brag rap's sake. Just, stacking words on top of each other without any type of meaning. I appreciate that. Even though comedy also has a time and a place for someone like Tyler. Yeah. He's a fun guy. Yeah, Mariah Carey. Okay. Hard to say anything about her as a vocalist. You can also like name drop, we could go like Diana Ross. We can talk about Aretha Franklin, right? There's a lot of them. Almighty Hop Beats. Hello, I'm new. I have a question. It's about the upload of the beats on the reuse. Is there a schedule to upload the beats? Sorry if this is not the correct time and place. Totally okay. Totally nice. The beat review goes live in a week. Every other Monday we do the beat reviews, and the schedule is simple. Whenever the beat review starts, and I'm announcing it live on stream, hey guys, now the submission form is open, submit your beats. That's when it's open. Not before, not after. You gotta be here for the start of the stream, and I'm telling you, live on stream. Go to the website, import stuff, and submit your beat right now. And then you have a chance to get in there and a chance to get played. Because I've done it in different ways before, and I got this massive queue of like 70 beats, and I had to go through everything, and I want it to be as fair as possible, even though it's not fair, I know. Where the stream starts, the submission goes live like 5 minutes after. That's what it is. Mark Ronson. Evidence just released a new album last Friday. No, he didn't. My daughter actually sent me that album yesterday. Just to, hey, Dad, check out. Evidence dropped a new album. He didn't. It's a rapper called Monday Night or whatever, and Evidence produced it. So partly it's an Evidence, or it's an Evidence project. Yeah, but it's not Evidence as a rapper. So, yeah. Lupe Fiasco should also be mentioned. Yep. Did you go to college, and what was your major? Yeah, we don't have that kind of system in Sweden. I did go to what we call a university maybe everyone doesn't, maybe no one knows. I used to be a kindergarten teacher. In Sweden it becomes preschool teacher, but kindergarten, daycare. Yeah, daycare teacher might be what it's actually called in American English. I used to work with kids 1 to 6 years old for years. I took a master. No, not a master's. It's not called a master's. It's called a filosofie-kandidatexamen, whatever that translates to. A bachelor's degree. Pretty sure. A bachelor's degree in pedagogik. When it comes to my education, I'm a trained preschool teacher. I went to university for 3.5 years for that. And I worked with children of that age for 7 years. Then I just left that field. So, yeah. That's my education. Puerto Ricanism is deleting all his messages. I can't read them. View deleted message. Maybe I can. I can. Cool. That's new. Daughter. Yeah, I have a daughter. I have a kid. 1. But yeah. Philosophy. No, it's not really philosophy. It's a little bit of philosophy and a little bit of psychology, I guess. But, being a teacher as a trade, it's pedagogy, whatever. So yeah, a trained teacher for young children. Nothing that had to do with music. No. Nothing like that. I went to what would be considered high school, I think. Studying media for 3 years in my teens. We did a lot of music production and a lot of radio production for that. But, that was before I turned 18. So that's what it is. Pedagogy. Yeah. Not sure how that's pronounced, but that's, yeah. I'm a teacher. Used to be a teacher. Nowadays it's a whole thing. Might be going back to school in August. Studying marketing. Kinda. I don't know. We'll see. Something will happen with my life. Going back to school might be the option. Because it is what it is. You know what? I know this is not like high quality content or anything, but I'm having a great time just talking about these things. We don't have a lot of viewers, but it's not like 4 of you either. So that's something. Hey, teacher, leave the kids alone. Yeah. What's recreational pharmaceuticals are legal in your area? And do you participate? You want to know? You know what? Sweden is one of the most, like, what's that word? Conserve. Sweden is very conservational. English is not my first language. Sweden and drugs, it's a whole thing. We have a complicated relationship with any type of drugs, or what did you call it? Recreational pharmaceuticals. Everything is illegal. For real. If you don't know anything about Sweden, one of these things, for instance, alcohol is sold in one store. We have a monopoly for alcohol. It's called Systembolaget. You can't buy alcohol anywhere else. It's just this single store. And there's like 1 or 2 in every Swedish city. And that's for liquor and stronger beer. Beer to like up to 3.5 you can buy at a grocery store. But anything else, anything stronger than that, you have to go to Systembolaget. You have to buy it at a premium. And it's not open on Sundays, for instance. It's a whole thing. It's a whole political system around it. And we are that conservative. Conservative is the word. We are that conservative with alcohol, even though everyone drinks a lot of alcohol. But when it comes to any type of recreational pharmaceuticals, it's just not allowed. Not at all. Not in any way. You can't purchase it, you can't sell it, you can't use it, you can't store it. No. And I'm talking about like, anything. Weed, no. Nothing like that. There are a few people in Sweden in general, just a few people, I think, who has gotten weed on receipt, it's called in Swedish, prescription for like pain killing functionality. And it's really rare. No one gets it. It's not a whole thing. You can't just show up a paper. It's a whole thing. So, yeah, when it comes to me, the honest truth, I've never even smoked weed. I've never even tried it. I've been around a lot of people. I had this guy like with a couple of plants in one of my apartments back in the day. He grew weed underneath my kitchen table and everything. Things went kind of crazy. I never even tried it. I know myself. I can't be trusted. So I never even tried it. Can you find it? Yeah, a lot of people are smoking weed. It's a thing, for sure. But it's super illegal. No one can't do it ever. You can find it all over. People are doing it all over. Yeah. If you had to start from scratch, what's the first move you'd make to build a passive income in the music industry? If I had to start from scratch, what's the first move you'd make to build passive income in the music industry? Wow, that's a question. I don't have a positive answer for that at all. I'm not the right person to ask for how to build a passive income in the music industry. I've tried for years and I've failed. So I wouldn't know. the first step would probably be to create content. Selling music for like sync licenses seems to work for a lot of people, but as an artist, making passive income just from, I don't know. I'm not the right guy to ask. I'm just not. Salwords is here. Hey, Accurate. Nice to listen to some personal stories. Well, that's all I have to offer today. It seems like. So, good. That's good. And Puerto Ricanism, just keep the questions coming. I appreciate that a lot. That's cool. That's cool. Without you, we wouldn't have this many questions. So I really appreciate it. Passive income, I don't even know what that is, to be honest. I think, to be honest, around here at least, I think you have kind of a better chance being a DJ than being a music producer or a musician. DJs will actually get work. They will get bookings to like play music at events and stuff. Is that a passive income? Maybe it's not. You have to be somewhat active when you play music. But, DJs is actually a DJ is actually a form of entertainment. All you need to do is to learn how to pick songs and mix stuff and whatever. Sometimes you don't even have to mix very well. You can still make money out of it. Yeah. I think a DJ has better career opportunities than music producers in general, because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of, you're competing with a lot of great people. If you had a studio flood, besides your MacBook, what would be the first component or hardware you'll get? If I had a studio flood, besides your MacBook, what would be the first component? I'm not even sure the MacBook would be the first. Yeah, I think it would. The MacBook and my external hard drive, that's kind of priceless. Yeah. The next thing, MPC XL. 100%. 100%. Anything else could be... everything is replaceable, right? You can always buy a new tape recorder. You can always buy a new turntable. It's money, of course, but my file structure and stuff, I have stuff on the XL that I consider to be priceless in terms of samples and projects and whatever. And to me, that's what really has the value. The actual work I'm doing compared to the gear. And since the file structure in here is kind of crazy, I would just take the MacBook under one arm and the XL under the other one and just leave. I think that's my answer. I could get everything else replaced. It would be kind of expensive, but I could get everything replaced. In terms of gear. Maybe some of the records too. Some of the records behind me are from my mom. When she passed away, I took all the records. So those records means more to me than, the microKORG. So maybe some of my mom's old records for sentimental value. Is your house in Enskede? That's outside of Stockholm. No, that's not where I live. Oh, now that it's been a few weeks, in an ideal scenario, what does InMusic do with Machine? In an ideal scenario, they would just make Machine great again. Put in the same time and effort into the development of Machine as they've done with the MPCs, bringing the Machine into the 2026, the year of 2026. I want them to add so many things to Machine. There's functionality inside of Tractor that's missing in Machine. Fill in the gaps. Just give us all the functionality from Tractor when it comes to, beat detection and identifying the root note and stuff. Give us that in Machine, at least. And some of the functionality from the NPCs. It's hard to say exactly what I want, but I want Machine to be as good or even better than an NPC. That would be cool. The hardware and the software itself has all the potential in the world to be great. Just great. And Native Instruments hasn't shown the platform the love it deserves. And I think in music should do that. Exactly what that kind of means is hard to say, but yeah. Have you ever used your passport and where did you go? I've been abroad. I have a sister living in Italy, so the last time I used my passport was going to visit her in Italy. I don't live in Stockholm. I don't. Hannibal Active again with a question about the deluge. Right now it sits over there. It traded places with other stuff. I want to use the deluge more than I do. It's one of those things. I was supposed to do a lot of stuff on it. I never got to it. It's a great device. It's really cool for what it is. I just haven't given it the time that it deserves. I suck. That's what it is. So yeah, I think it's time to wrap it up. We've been live for almost 2 hours, and I think that's enough of me just answering questions, just chatting away. We never ended up making a beat, and I think that's totally fine. Totally fine. Didn't I even say that in the video is called Accurate Beats Livestream Q&A plus Jam ? So yeah, we're not getting a jam today. We're just not. I'm off work tomorrow, so I have the entire day down here tomorrow, working on projects, making music, all that stuff. So just chatting away today felt cool. Okay. From Deep Music asks, how do you make money? I make the majority of my money from my day job. I work 4 hours a week for a municipal. I have a municipal job. Municipal. Yeah, I have a normal job. I'm a normal person. I make a little bit of money from YouTube sometimes, and sometimes a little bit more from sponsors, but it's not much. So I have a day job. Yeah, thanks for the AMA. That's what it's called. AMA. Ask me anything. Right. And my whole plan, the whole scheme behind this is to be able to take at least 1 or 2 of these questions and cut this video into some kind of YouTube short or Instagram reel or whatever like that. Because someone like me needs to, I need to do more reels and stories reels and shorts. I need to do more short form videos, even though I'm not a huge fan of that kind of, everything going that way. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I need to adapt somehow a little bit. If you never had gained a following on YouTube, would you have continued the channel? I think I would. Actually, in my prime, when I had kind of all the subscribers coming in and the channel growing, that felt good. That was kind of a big reason for me to kind of put more hours into this content creation stuff. We're talking years ago. If it never took off at all, if I never got Would I still continue to do it? Yeah, maybe, but maybe less of it. Maybe caring less about the actual videos. Nowadays, I care way too much. And if the channel never became anything, I think I still would have made stuff every now and then. Video is fun. Making videos is fun. Publishing videos is fun. So I think I would have done it. Just a little bit less. When beat makers learn they have to be content creators. Reels. Yeah, sure. I mean, I am a content creator, or I used to. I guess I make content. Even though the way things are moving with short form and, highly entertaining stuff, I can't see myself going that route. I like the long form video format of covering something like an NPC XL from, talking about what it is, making a video about what it is and how it feels and what I think about it. I like that. I still do. Short form content is, you gotta do it. You gotta make it. It's not that it's hard. It's just finding who I am in that kind of context is different. You know what? Thanks a lot for all the questions. Thanks a lot for all the chit-chatting and being curious about stuff. I really appreciate that. A big shout out to Puerto Ricanism for tonight. Just keeping the questions coming. That's awesome. I appreciate that. So thanks a lot for that. Thanks a lot for tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and promise you guys that every single live stream like this is not going to be like this. It's just not. I'm going to make beats live. I'm going to test out samples live. I'm going to test out gear and software live. We're going to talk like this sometimes. We're going to check out your home studio setups. Maybe like whatever. My live streaming content is not on a schedule. It's not going to be decided whatever I do. Every other Monday, it's a beat review, and that's going to stay active for what it is. But on these off Mondays, I'm just going to do whatever. Answering questions, talking to you is one of the things. Making beats on devices, hardware, software is one of the things. I'm just going to be loose about it. And I think that's nice. So yeah, thanks a lot for hanging out. Thanks for submitting all the questions and just being a part of this thing. I appreciate it. I think it's cool. Spending 2 hours together like this, it's not bad. Not bad at all. I think it's kind of cool. I think most of us are here just for the hang. Me too. And, sometimes I'm stressing out about getting something done, like, being able to make a beat. That's what I do. That's what I enjoy doing. But tonight, I'm not sure that I'm inspired to make music. So let's not even try. It makes sense to me. Kind of makes sense to you, I hope. It is what it is. So, Nightbot just told Puerto Ricanism to stop spamming caps. Warning? I never told the Nightbot to do that. I'm sorry about that, Puerto Ricanism. I'm gonna tell this Nightbot of mine to behave. What's that? A warning? I'm gonna try to disable that somehow. Puerto Ricanism, I can short that to PRISM. P-R-ism. Yeah, that makes it easier. PRISM. I'm just gonna sign out, go to bed and whatever. For real. I don't have anything else to do. So yeah, don't stress yourself. I'm not stressing myself. It's just that sometimes whenever I decide to do a beat making live stream, I have this itch that I want to make something that I'm decently happy with. Sometimes I'm getting into issues with like not finding the right pitch and whatever. It's cool. It's a part of the process. Sometimes I just want to make music for myself, not including you guys. Sometimes I want to include you guys for something like this. Whatever. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for hanging out. See you guys in a week on a live stream. That's a beat review. Again, the beat review starts at 8 my time. The schedule for that, the time code and everything is on the website, or supposed to be soon enough. And whenever the live stream goes live, the submission form opens. You can submit your beat at that point in time. Make a quick loop. Okay, here's a quick loop. That's a quick loop. That's a quick loop for you. Thanks a lot for hanging out. See you guys next week. Until then, ha det